Hello, everybody, and today I'm reviewing Mean Girls, the musical. This came out 2024, and I gotta say that this isn't my favorite incarnation of Mean Girls since I prefer the one that came out in 2004. But this is, I guess you can say, a remake musical since there are multiple versions of the Mean Girls story. The main movie, the Broadway one, which I have not seen, and this movie. But this movie mainly follows I'm gonna guess the script from the Broadway version. And if you don't know the Mean Girls story, it's about a girl named Katie Heron who is going to a new school after moving from Africa with her parents, and she tries to fit in until she meets the infamous Regina George and her friend group, and her world changes throughout the days of high school because of it. So this movie you can say, is maybe controversial since people do like that 2004 movie. And as for my thoughts on it, I actually really do like Mean Girls. Some people probably think it's a girls' movie, but honestly, I think it's a perfect high school movie. It has all the high school tropes, all the kinds of people you encounter throughout your high school days, the kinds of students you deal with, the wild teachers, and it's just a fun movie overall with some quotable lines. But I guess they decided to make it a musical. But this time we got a newer cast. And we got Archika Rice, I'm sorry if I said her name wrong, as Katie Heron. And we got, I think, Renee Raps as Regina George. I gotta say, she's really good as Regina George. I do like Rachel McAdams. I think she's definitely the better Regina George. But Renee is a new celebrity crush for me. I still love Jenna Ortega, of course. Nothing can top her. But Renee Raps just definitely is probably the best singer in this movie. But if you don't know the Mean Girls story, it's basically where Katie tries to meet she tries to meet new friends, but it just doesn't work out until she meets Janice, Ian, and Damien. And apparently Janice has a grudge against Regina, and we don't really know it at first until they start plotting what they could do. And basically Janice just has Katie be friends with her, Regina, and basically just so they can just laugh about what she does. And that's basically what happens in the movie. Same with this musical. And we get various song numbers. And I gotta say, the choreography is really good in this movie. I definitely feel the movements of everyone dancing throughout this movie. It's really good. Some songs don't really work for me. I kind of prefer the more group style of singing in this movie instead of the random solos that happen throughout the movie. But I don't know, if you're really not into musicals, you probably won't enjoy this movie as much. But mainly this movie is about Katie also having a crush on a man named Aaron Samuels, who's this nice guy who used to date Regina, and everyone's telling Katie she can't date him because Regina used to date him. But she decides to somewhat try to find a way to do it. But the usual things happen. She does hang out with Regina. Instead of them going to the mall, we instead get a dance number called the Apex Predator, I think it's called. It's a pretty catchy song, but Katie mainly has to watch out for Regina, and they even go to her house and meet her mom, who basically kind of just spoils Regina because her family's rich, and basically Regina gets to do every bad thing. But the major thing that becomes a turn in this movie is called the Burn Book, and the Burn Book is basically where they just cut out pictures of high schoolers and just write mean things about everybody. And that's basically what happens. And what really takes a turn for this movie is the Halloween party. And probably the scene that did not work for people in this movie was we got the version of Karen Smith in this movie. She decides to sing a song about her being sexy, and it's kind of like a TikTok kind of style musical number, and I don't really mind it too much, but the main thing that didn't work for people in this movie is that they're kind of just pulling various trends and trying to work it with Mean Girls, and that's kind of what this movie is basically trying to be. Honestly, it doesn't really bother me since this movie does follow the movie well, but I honestly just prefer the performances of the previous Mean Girls movie. But some of the cast do return. We see Tina Fey, who wrote the original Mean Girls. She plays Miss Norbury, and she's basically the positive math teacher who's encouraging towards Katie, but when her grades start to slip, she kind of just calls it out. But we also got the principal. I forget the actor's name, but he's really good as the principal, and he's even good when he returns as him again. Those are the only returning cast members until we get to the later cameo in this movie. But the main thing that drives Katie to try to ruin Regina is basically during the Halloween party, she dresses like a vampire of some sort, and she witnesses Regina during her little song number. She ends up kissing Aaron, and basically Katie goes home to Janice's house, ends up crying because they took Aaron back, and so Janice decides to get into another song number where we get a more glitterified version of the characters, and they're singing about trying to find a way to get Aaron back. But yeah. But as this movie goes on, Katie, if you don't know the story, Katie just starts to change. She starts to become more like a plastic. That's what they're called in the movie, as they try to do various bad things to Regina, basically giving her a bar that will make her gain weight, and basically make her unpopular, and make her betray her without realizing it. Basically just use her for her friends. But it starts to turn Katie as she starts to become a plastic herself. She starts wearing the various clothes, and she starts to make her math grade slip a little. But, yeah, and basically she becomes a mean girl, and she even throws her own party after her mom decides to go out on a little trip, and basically things go wrong. She tries to hook up with Aaron, and it causes a rift between her and Janice. And I'm basically describing the original plot of Mean Girls, but basically in musical form. But the two sever ties, and they're no longer friends. But mainly Regina George is upset. She even sings like a solo. She has 2 solos in this movie about who she is and how she's a massive deal. And she basically is going to use the burn book to her advantage. I forgot to mention one thing in this movie is we get a Christmas song in this movie, where if you don't know the infamous Christmas scene where the girls dress like Santa's helpers and they end up dancing kind of scandalous, that would probably get you dress coded in school if you actually did in real life. And that's basically they basically did a modern version of it, and they don't sing Jingle Bell Rock in this version. I was a bit turned off by that, but they end up dancing. But the main thing that happens to Regina, she basically gets upset that Katie took Aaron away, and she realized she's been getting used this whole time. We even see her on the treadmill trying to lose weight as much as she can, but when she finds out the bars are actually supposed to make you gain weight, she gets super mad, and she even puts Katie in the burn book, and she even puts herself in it. And then she literally drops the burn book at school, and a student finds it, and she basically is sent to the principal's office, and he actually believes that Regina is a victim, and basically Katie is behind this whole thing. And basically, if you don't know the movie, a giant riot happens, but this time it's a musical number. And where Regina's saying how she's gonna just watch the world burn. And as everything starts to fall apart for the school, and then the principal literally just pulls the fire alarm, and then, yeah, all the girls are put into the gymnasium, basically gotta figure out a way to make them get along. He even threatens to end their school dance, but the girls really want that dance, and basically they have to apologize for every bad thing they did. And Miss Norbury ends up encouraging. The best part is Miss Norbury. I feel like she's a good teacher. I like how she's encouraging the students to, basically not be mean to each other. And all the girls apologize except for Katie, if you don't know the movie. And then Janice gets into her song number where she gets her own solo, and she's played by the girl the voice of Milana. I thought that was cool. I was surprised to learn that, and yeah, I can see why they chose her to be Janice, and she's actually pretty good as Janice. But she ends up singing "I'd Rather Be Me," and she runs throughout the school, and that scene was entertaining. But Regina ends up getting hit by a bus, and she survives, of course, but she's injured. But what happens next is Katie gets grounded, and she realizes what she's done is wrong, and she decides to make up for it and she ends up joining this math club where she has to compete in a competition, and we get a cameo from Lindsay Lohan, the original Katie Heron, who played her in the movie. I thought that cameo was cool. It was wild to see her. I thought she was gonna almost play herself in this movie, since I thought this would be new characters, but nah, this is just a reboot, a modern version, like I said. But Katie has to use her math skills to win the competition, and I'm not a mathematician, so I can't relate to her in that scene. But the school dance happens anyway, and basically the prom is basically I think all the mean girls, of course, and including Janice. But Katie ends up winning the competition. She goes back to the school, and she's basically chosen to be, I guess, prom queen. But she ends up redeeming herself, and she ends up apologizing for all the harm she's caused and for the burn book. And she ends up breaking the I do like the scene where, even in the original, where they say, "We're fighting over plastic," and she basically breaks the queen's tiara and just throws it at various students, complimenting them. And her and Janice, of course, make up, and Damien. Yeah. And so, the movie ends, and it doesn't end like in the original where everyone's gone on a new path. It just ends with, it even opened with Janice and Damien singing in a garage, and it even closes it on them in a garage, and we get various bloopers. And so that's Mean Girls. So yeah, I don't know why this movie got a lot of hate. I actually enjoyed this movie overall. I like I said, I just think the original Mean Girls is a much better movie in my opinion. I would like to review it, but I don't know if that'd be basically reviewing the same movie in this. But I basically played the comparison game throughout this whole movie review. But I think I enjoyed this movie overall. I'd probably give it just a 7 out of 10. It's not my favorite movie of this year, but it's definitely a surprise for sure, since I never thought I'd get this into Mean Girls. But it's the perfect high school movie to watch, and maybe I'll review the first Mean Girls, the original, one day. But so anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.